folks, how you doing? It's Mitch from Hard Intentions YouTube channel. We also sell T-shirts, stuff like that, artwork. So just check that out. You might find something you like. You know, I was just tripping on, people, and the old lady watches some of these housewife shows, and I was just tripping on how superficial everything is. And we were chatting about how, the world seems to be very superficial. Everything evolves around money and looks, and the latest trend, and who buys what clothes because they're trendy or not, and everyone's into how they look. And, I got a homeboy that lives down in the desert, and this guy used to surf. He used to race motocross. He used to serve. He served in the Coast Guard and enjoyed doing it. And he was a really good dude. And now he's got cancer. He's got some shit where they, half his palate up to his nose is gone. He has no upper lip. He can, he can't close his mouth now. He needs another, what do you call that, face transplant. Basically, they need to, it's hard to understand because he talks, obviously he has no upper lip and palate. So people treat him bad. People go and rip him off, and when he's not home, they break into his house and steal his shit. People go to under the guise of helping him and screw him over and take his shit. And, he's a good dude. In his prime, he probably would not put up with that kind of shit. He's been a big supporter of ours. Watches our videos, buys our merch, and then gives it away to people. He's just a cool dude, man. And people are judging him by his appearance and not by his heart. And, it kind of pisses me off. So Clint down there, we love you, brother, and hopefully we'll see him soon. But it just brought to mind some other things like, when I was in prison, people did the same shit. They would judge people by, oh, this guy's cool, this guy's, people gravitate towards, in prison for different reasons. They gravitate towards people for different reasons. Like guys that are just kind of doing their time, they're not really into the drugs and all that shit. They'll gravitate towards people who are working in PIA or plant operations, and there'll be a little crew because they're just trying to do their time and make a few bucks and stay occupied. And there's a crew of guys like that, and then there's a crew of guys that are into the drugs and who's calling shots and who, they want to gravitate towards that or whatever. But as far as judging a book by the cover, though, I remember I knew two guys actually. Little guys. One dude, was kind of being bullied. A little white dude, and this guy was bullying him in J3 in Placerville. And so, he went in the hallway. It's a hallway in the wing with dorms coming off of it. So he goes to the back of the hallway. There's a window, and he had a knife. And dude came up to bully him some more, like to beat him down, actually. And he stabbed the dude, and he killed him. And so he got a murder because the dude was bullying him. Basically, he didn't want to be bullied, treated like a punk, and he got a life sentence. And, but the other one, that I remember was this guy. He ran around with a native friend of mine later on in life at Soledad, and but they were together in CMF. And what people didn't know about this dude was he had gotten busted when he was younger in Nevada, like auto theft or something. And when he was in the county jail, someone beat him down and raped him. So here he was a few years later, you know, doing little nickel and dime shit in California prisons. Um, and this bigger black dude told him, you know, he was gonna fuck him basically. And so he, you know, this guy comes to my native friend and says, "Hey, you know, this guy said he wants to make me his bitch. You know, what should I do?" And you know, so my native friend says, "Well, you know, you can stab him or you can be his bitch." You know, the dude's a lot bigger than him, and so he goes, "Well, I'm not going to be his bitch," you know. And so my friend gave him a piece, and in Vacaville, when they run dinner or breakfast and all that, they have 3 chow halls in a row, so people are going and coming and going. They're going into chow halls, coming out of the chow halls, on the same corridor, going both ways. Now they have controlled movement; it only goes one way. Um, but back then, it was pretty loose, so homeboy went down there during chow, caught the dude, stabbed him in the chest, and went in the chow hall, passed the piece off to somebody, and they put it in a slop bucket. So now when you get your tray, you eat whatever food you don't want, you go out, you dump it in a slop bucket, which is a big trash can, put your tray and your silverware down and walk out. So he booked the dude, walked in the chow hall, passed the piece off. Someone took the piece, threw it in a slop bucket. They never found the piece. Homeboy went and sat down, ate. Later on, he got caught because somebody told on him, which is usually the case. You can make a smooth ass move and get away with it and still get caught because someone told. And unfortunately, you know, he got a life sentence for that. And I don't know if he's paroled yet or not. I last saw him in Soledad. And, you know, so here's a guy, a big ass bully, threatening to punk somebody. Had no clue that this guy had gone through this traumatic stuff in another state when he was younger, and you know what kind of images that conjured up in this guy's head and his mind about, you know, what that would be to have some guy, you know, turning him on, making him a punk basically. This dude, this bully, had no idea what kind of shit he was stirring up in this guy's head, and you know, he judged the book by its cover, and it cost him his life. And then unfortunately, you know, that cost homeboy his life too in a different way. I mean, he got a life sentence, and he spent, you know, like last time I saw him, he was pretty gray like me, you know. He was a gray beard, but he had hair still. But you know, you can't judge a book by its cover like that, man. You don't know what's going on inside somebody's head or their heart when you deal with them, especially if you don't know them. You haven't spent time talking to them, whatever. You meet somebody, you know, I always judge people by their words and their actions. So, you know, there are guys like we see on these channels that come out and say, hey, you know, they act like they're reformed, and, you know, the quintessential square, you know, they manipulate the system to, you know, they say, hey, I'm done with that lifestyle. They manipulate the system so they could get out. They manipulate people, basically. And then they get out here in the world, and they're not done. They just, you know, they're narcissistic. They care about themselves and no one else. And I remember a friend of mine from San Bernardino told me one time, you know, he goes, people that just care about themselves, they will snitch on you because they don't care about anyone but themselves. And so, you know, guys manipulate, get out here in the world, and then, you know, the cover of that book's a lot different on the inside than it is the outside. And they get out here, start doing dirt. They don't care about who they hurt, or who they fuck over, or, you know, the next guy behind them was trying to get out here, depending on their good example, right? You know, my good example sets a precedence for the next guy behind me who has a life sentence, is trying to get out of prison. I have a lot of friends out here who've done well. They get life sentences, they change their lives and their behavior, and they're out here doing well. My friend down in Arizona, him to death. He's doing well out here. And he got out 10 years before me. So he set precedents for me to get out. Guy's an outlaw biker. It's in a motorcycle club. Did his time, got out of prison, and has done very well. He doesn't have a lot of money, but he's a rich man. He has a lot of friends. He's enjoying his freedom. So he set precedents for me. So when I went to board, I could get out. And so those are the kind of guys that I just have all the respect in the world for. And, I try to follow in their footsteps, man, so the next guy behind me can get out. But, in prison, you learn to judge people quickly and not by how they look. It's basically, or the little, or how they move around, but you judge them by their actions, what comes out of their mouth, and what they do, how they act, and how they treat people. I see guys that think they're all that, and they treat them judges some guys thinking, that he's not all that, and they treat him bad. I'm like, yeah, I'm not messing with that dude. When I see guys that are all that, and they treat guys that other people look, unfavorably upon, and they treat them with respect and dignity, and they build them up instead of tearing them down. Those are the guys I gravitate to, because those are the kind of guys that helped me get through my prison term. Yeah, I mean, people that run their heads in prison, the guy that says, yeah, this guy ought to be stabbed, or this guy, that dude's a piece of shit, or what, there's people that are going to see that and hear that. If you're in prison, they're going to be like, hey, all right, guys running his head about, guys that need to be dealt with. They're going to step up, put a knife in their hand and say, hey, go deal with that. Tough guy. That's a mistake that a lot of youngsters make in prison, is they run their heads like, this ought to happen or that ought to happen. They talk about violent actions. This guy's no good and somebody ought to do something to him. Well, there's guys that have been there and they're pretty sharp on how to live in prison, and they're going to manipulate that kid into doing something. I had a homeboy that was, in prison. He was a pretty good dude, but he got wrapped up in drugs. And, he's a big, tough dude, and he started bullying people. And, son of mine ended up killing him. So, he was judging other people as weak, bullying them, and just outright bullying people. And there are other guys in there who do it with finesse. They bully people with finesse, if that makes any sense. They don't make them feel like punks. They kind of nibble around the edges, get a little piece, and they don't just outright bully people. So when someone stepped up and just was outright bullying people that they bully with finesse, that's the only really way I can put it. They didn't like that, so they killed him. I see a lot of this out here in the world, man. Like I said, people into superficial shit out here. And it's kind of sad, but what are you gonna do? When you're in the workplace and you want to advance, obviously everybody wants to advance in the workplace, make more money, get more time on the job, whatever the case may be. I remember when I worked on the inmate day labor, IDL. There was a crew where it had inmate prisoners working, and they had people from the unions coming in who were retired. They were allowed to work 6 months out of the year on the IDL crew in prison. And the theory is that they would train us how to advance in our trade skills, So we were doing job, it was about 60 by 120 foot block building. They were building in Donovan for the drug program. And there were rough jobs like tying rebar. It's a state prison, so there's a lot more rebar in it, in the footings, in the walls. It's not just a block wall. It's got double layers of rebar going every which way. So me and this other youngster were tying the rebar. And you had these guys that they appeared to be, intelligent, hardworking guys, but really they were slackers. And, so their appearance was, good working dudes, that knew what the fuck they were doing. But in reality, they were lazy shits that took shortcuts. They were the guys around the side of the building relaxing in the shade while we were out doing something, working in the sun. But I remember we were tying rebar in the footing, and, it's a rough job. All of a sudden, here's these two guys. They're slackers. They had the appearance, right? But they were worthless to me. All of a sudden, they're over there tying rebar. And then here comes the boss, and they get up and start chatting with the boss, and then that's the last we see them for the day. So some guys call it butt dancing, they want to dance for the boss when the boss is around. They want to put on a show. You get the same thing out here in the world. Don't let it bother you. Just do your job and do it well. Because people above you and above them, they're going to see it. They're going to say, hey, this dude over here is an asset. My friend up the hill, Ryan, he got a job prevailing wage. And this is, same thing you learn in prison. It's out here in the world. He got a job prevailing wage, doing a huge job. He doesn't cut corners. He does things right. He's doing HVAC. And if something's not right, he straightens it out, makes it right. And he does it in a reasonable amount of time. He knows that time is money for him and the boss. So at the end of this job, as the job was wrapping up, the person running the job told his boss, hey, I want to, all these other guys you can take back. We're done with them, but I want to keep this guy with the beard and the tattoos. He was brand new. And the guy didn't even know his name. He said, the guy with the tattoos and the beard. And then the rest of the guys you can, we're done with. And they got pissed off. And they're like, hey, man, we've been working for this company for years. And they chose you to work the prevailing wage or finish the job and let us go. You tell them, hey, and whatever it is you're doing, maybe you got to think about changing, because obviously you're not doing something right. They didn't know what kind of dude they're messing with when they started talking a little bit of smack. I mean, he doesn't put up with no bullshit. He's been to prison, and he's a good dude, and he loves making money the right way. And so you can't judge people by how they look. You got to judge people by how they act, And it's a hard thing for me out here, because you meet people, you hear what comes out of their mouth, and then you see how they behave, and it's a totally different thing, So, anyways, I just wanted to tell you that story because, I was thinking about my friend down there in Arizona with missing his palate and his upper lip, and how people treat him. The dude's got an amazing heart and mind, and we love him to death, and we wish we were closer so we'd help him out more. And then it brought to mind, old boy, that stabbed that dude in the hallway because he said he was going to rape him. It just, I just never forgot that, and I just had to speak on that. Don't judge a book by its cover, folks, because in the end, it could cost you your life. Just remember that. Or it could cost you your finances, which could cost you your standard of living, your home, your car, whatever. The world out here is very similar to prison. It's just, the damage done is usually financially out here. People will hurt you financially. Whatever it is you do it hard. Whatever you do, remember, do it hard.